You open your eyes. The sound of the alarm clock feels not just like a signal, but like physical pain piercing your skull. The first desire is not to get up and conquer the world, but to bargain with reality for 5 more minutes of oblivion in your pillow. Your body is heavy, as if filled with lead, and your thoughts are viscous, like setting concrete. You slept 7 or even 8 hours, but you feel as if you spent the whole night unloading freight cars. Sound familiar? If you recognize yourself in this description, I have bad news for you. Your system is running in emergency mode. And good news, it's not your fault. It is a system failure. Welcome to the laboratory of reality. We are not here to read you motivational lectures or advise you to just think positively. Biochemistry doesn't care about your thoughts as long as there is no fuel in the cells. We are here to take a human being apart, screw by screw, find the breakdown, and reassemble them. To do this, we use Logos 7, an advanced analytical system that processes terabytes of medical data, scientific research, and behavioral patterns. We uploaded the life parameters of the average 21st century urban dweller into Logos 7, and the system delivered an unambiguous verdict: critical energy exchange error. What you call fatigue is not a state. It is a symptom of a global violation of life support protocols. Let's start with the most important myth that poisons the lives of millions: the myth of laziness. Logos 7 conducted a semantic and neurophysiological analysis of this concept. The system's conclusion is shockingly simple. Laziness does not exist. What society is used to branding as laziness, lack of desire to act, procrastination, apathy, is actually a protective mechanism of the biological machine. When your smartphone's charge drops to 5%, it dims the bright screen, blocks background apps, and stops updating email. You don't scream at your phone, accusing it of laziness, do you? You look for a charger. Your brain does the same thing. When you feel you cannot force yourself to work, it means your central nervous system has detected a deficit of neurotransmitters or a depletion of glucose reserves in the prefrontal cortex. The system goes into power-saving mode. Logos 7 shows that attempts to overcome this state through sheer willpower without eliminating the physiological cause lead to burnout in 98% of cases. We are not lazy, we are discharged. And in this chapter, we will conduct a full diagnostic of where your electricity is leaking. The first and most massive factor identified by the Logos 7 system, we named evolutionary mismatch. Imagine trying to run the newest, most demanding video game on a computer built in the 90s. The hardware will overheat, start to lag, and eventually burn out. The human body is hardware that was formed over hundreds of thousands of years in savanna conditions. Our genes, our hormones, our mitochondria are tuned for calorie deficits, high physical activity, and living by the solar cycle. But we have placed this ancient, perfect equipment into an environment for which it is absolutely not designed. We uploaded data on the living conditions of a modern office worker into Logos 7. The simulation results show a catastrophic conflict. We sit under lamps that flicker at a frequency invisible to the eye but read by the brain as a stress factor. We breathe air in which the concentration of carbon dioxide exceeds the norm by 2 times by midday, which reduces cognitive abilities by 30%. We consume information in volumes that our ancestor did not receive in a lifetime. Every notification, every bright banner, every sharp sound is a micro-stress triggering the ancient fight or flight response. But we don't fight and we don't run. We sit. And this unrealized chemical cocktail of cortisol and adrenaline begins to literally corrode us from the inside, spending colossal resources on maintaining muscle tension. The second critical failure detected by the system is attention leakage. Many believe that energy is spent only on physical movement. This is a lie. The brain is the most gluttonous organ in your body. Making up only 2% of body weight, it consumes 20% of all energy. But Logos 7 clarifies, the brain in multitasking mode consumes many times more, but with zero efficiency. We analyzed a typical morning. You wake up and before getting out of bed, reach for your phone. This is an action that the system marks as a dopamine needle. Overnight, your brain partially cleared itself of neurotoxins and receptors regained sensitivity. And so, first thing, you unleash an avalanche of super stimuli on them. News, work chats, perfect lives on social networks. In the first 15 minutes of wakefulness, you spend the reserve of neurochemical fuel that should have gone into launching complex cognitive processes. The Logos 7 algorithms recorded a phenomenon we called background noise. The modern human has 200 browser tabs open in their head constantly. You drink coffee but think about the report. You write the report but worry about the loan. You speak with a colleague but check likes. Every such shift of attention is a metabolic operation requiring glucose. The system calculated. By 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the average person has already depleted their decision-making resource without having started anything important. You're not tired from work. You're tired from the chaos in your neural networks. Your RAM is full, and the processor is overheated. The third vector of energy leakage is what we call the illusion of rest. Having analyzed data on the leisure of millions of people, Logos 7 revealed a paradox. People believe that watching series or scrolling a feed is rest, but from the point of view of neurophysiology, this is active loading of the visual cortex and limbic system. When you watch a dynamic action movie or disturbing news, your brain is not resting. It processes the incoming data stream, builds predictions, and empathizes. The simulation conducted by the system shows an hour of scrolling a social network is comparable in sensory system load to solving a complex mathematical problem, only without a useful result. You are not recharging the battery. You continue to drain it, just in a different mode. True rest for the brain is the default mode network, the wandering mode, the absence of incoming information. But modern man is terrified of silence. As soon as a pause arises, in an elevator, in line, in a traffic jam, the hand reaches for a gadget. We have forgotten how to be offline. We have forgotten how to recover. The fourth zone of damage is toxic fuel. We will analyze nutrition in detail in the third chapter, but right now, Logos 7 demands we identify a fundamental problem. We use dirty energy, fast carbohydrates, sugar, stimulants. It is like throwing paper into a fire instead of firewood. The fire flares up brightly but goes out in 5 minutes, leaving only ash. Fluctuations in blood sugar levels create an energy roller coaster. Rise, fall, rise, fall. Each cycle of falling is accompanied by a release of stress hormones because, for the ancient brain, a drop in glucose levels is a signal of starvation death. You feel anxiety, weakness, brain fog, and reach for sweets or coffee again. This is a vicious circle from which it is impossible to escape without understanding biochemistry. Logos 7 draws attention to one more hidden factor: chronic inflammation. In millions of people, a fire is smoldering in the body that they do not suspect. This could be a reaction to certain foods, hidden infections, consequences of a sedentary lifestyle. The immune system spends colossal resources fighting this invisible enemy. Up to 30% of all energy produced by the body can go towards servicing inflammatory processes. You feel shattered because your body is waging a war while you are trying to balance the books. Let's go back to the beginning, to the moment you opened your eyes. Why is waking up so hard? The system points to a disruption of circadian rhythms. We live in an era of light pollution. Blue light from screens blocks the production of melatonin, a hormone that not only puts us to sleep, but also triggers cellular repair processes. If you looked at your phone before bed, your brain received the signal. It is noon. The sun is at its zenith. You fell asleep, but the deep sleep phases were shortened. Recovery did not happen. Moreover, most people have a disrupted cortisol curve. Normally, it should be high in the morning to wake you up, and low in the evening. In modern man, everything is the opposite. In the evening, cortisol goes off the scale from stress and inflammation, preventing sleep, and in the morning, its reserves are depleted, and you cannot wake up. Logo 7 identified an interesting correlation. Energy levels are directly proportional to the quantity of mitochondria in cells and their quality. Mitochondria are tiny power plants inside us. They produce ATP, the universal currency of energy. With age and improper lifestyle, their number drops and efficiency decreases. But the scariest thing is that we kill them ourselves. Hypodynamia, lack of movement, sends a signal to the cells. Energy is not needed. Shut down the stations. The organism is an incredibly economical system. It will not maintain expensive energy production infrastructure if you do not use it. The less you move, the less strength you have to move. This is a downward spiral leading to total atrophy of vital forces. So, what do we have at this stage of diagnostics? The Logo 7 analysis shows that modern man is a high-tech biological machine being operated with gross violations of the manual. We pour in the wrong fuel, don't let the system cool down, keep the processor under 100% load 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and are surprised why the system is glitching. Your fatigue is not laziness. Your procrastination is not weakness of character. These are emergency protection protocols. Your organism is trying to survive in conditions it considers hostile. It is screaming for help in the language of pain, apathy, and brain fog. And if you continue to ignore these signals, drowning them in caffeine and silencing them with loud music, the next stage will be system failure, illness, depression, total burnout. But there is another way. The path of biohacking and a systems approach. We can rewrite the protocols. We can crack this code. Logo 7 has already calculated the recovery algorithm. It won't be easy, and it's not a magic pill. It is an engineering task. We have to rebuild everything, from how you breathe to how you think. We will start with the foundation, with those tiny power plants I mentioned. In the next chapter, we will go down to the micro level. We will analyze the mitochondria protocol. You will learn how to make your cells produce as much energy as you had at age 10. We will examine the mechanisms of mitochondrial biogenesis and strategies for reactivating ATP synthesis. Forget everything you knew about rest. Forget the guilt of not being productive. Realize right now, you are not permanently broken. You are just discharged. And we are starting the charging process. Diagnostics complete. Faults localized. Recovery plan loaded into the system. Stay tuned. The most interesting part is ahead. We will learn to control our own biology rather than be its hostages. Logo 7 is ready to launch the next stage of the simulation. See you in the second chapter. In the first chapter, we established the fact of a system failure. You are not lazy. You are de-energized. Now it is time to descend from the macro level of your sensations to the micro level of cellular biology, to where every spark of your vitality is actually born. Welcome to the engine room of the human organism. Forget about coffee, energy drinks, and willpower for a minute. All of that is just an attempt to squeeze the last drops out of a dry lemon. True energy is pure physics and chemistry. It is an electric current that runs along your nerves, contracts muscles, and forces brain neurons to form thoughts. Where does this current come from? We uploaded a complete map of human metabolic processes into the Logo 7 system, and the system's answer is unequivocal. You are a walking colony of ancient bacteria working for you. We are talking about mitochondria. These are tiny organelles living inside almost every one of your cells. Billions of years ago, our single-celled ancestors engulfed these bacteria, but did not digest them. Instead, they made a deal. The cell provides protection and nutrients, and the bacterium, in return, produces energy. This symbiosis is the basis of all complex life on Earth, and the basis of your personal effectiveness today. Logos 7 conducted an analysis of the relationship between a person's subjective level of vigor and the state of their mitochondrial network. The correlation is 99.9%. If your mitochondria work poorly, you will feel shattered even if you sleep 12 hours and eat a ton of vitamins. If they work at full capacity, you will be full of strength even under stress and lack of sleep. Let's figure out exactly how this internal power plant works. The main currency of energy in our body is called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Imagine that ATP is a charged battery. The mitochondrion takes glucose or fatty acids, mixes them with oxygen. This is why breathing is so important. And in the process of the complex Krebs cycle, charges ATP molecules. Then this battery is sent to where energy is needed. For example, to a thigh muscle so you can take a step, or to a brain synapse so you can recall someone's name. Giving up energy, ATP turns into ADP, a discharged battery that returns to the mitochondrion for recharging. This cycle happens millions of times per second. Right now, while you are listening to this text, your mitochondria are generating a current equal in power to a small light bulb. Over 24 hours, your body produces and consumes an amount of ATP equal to your own weight. Think about that. 70 kilograms of pure chemical fuel is synthesized inside you every 24 hours. So what is the problem? Why does the system fail? Logos 7 identifies the main vulnerability. The energy production process is dirty. Like any power plant burning fuel, the mitochondrion produces exhaust gases. In biology, they are called free radicals or reactive oxygen species. These are unstable molecules that seek to steal an electron from everything in their path. In a young and healthy body, there are antioxidant defense systems that neutralize this smoke. But with age and under the influence of the modern lifestyle, the balance is disturbed. The Logos 7 system shows alarming statistics. By the age of 40, the efficiency of mitochondria in the average urban dweller drops by 30 to 40% compared to the age of 20. Why does this happen? Imagine an engine that runs on poor quality gasoline for years, never undergoes maintenance, and constantly overheats. Free radicals begin to damage the mitochondrion itself, destroying its membranes and DNA. A damaged mitochondrion begins to work even worse, producing less energy and more toxic smoke. It is a chain reaction. The cell gets clogged with metabolic debris. In the end, we get a state that Logos 7 classifies as mitochondrial dysfunction. It lies at the root of aging, chronic fatigue, and most metabolic diseases. But we are not here to state the fact of decline. We are here to hack the system. Analysis of data from centenarians and elite athletes allowed Logos 7 to form a recovery protocol, which we called Protocol Mitochondria. It consists of two key strategies, mitophagy and mitochondrial biogenesis. The first strategy is mitophagy. This is the cleaning process. We need to force the body to destroy old, weak, and defective mitochondria that only consume resources and create toxins. How to do this? The answer may not please you, but it is confirmed by thousands of studies. We need controlled stress. Modern man lives in a temperature paradise. We have created an environment where it is always plus 22 degrees. Air conditioners in summer, heating in winter. We wear warm clothes. We never experience real cold or heat. Logos 7 identifies this comfort as a factor of degradation. Our genes expect thermal stress. One of the most powerful triggers for mitochondrial renewal is cold. When you subject the body to low temperatures, for example, a cold shower or an ice bath, a powerful release of norepinephrine occurs. But most importantly, brown adipose tissue is activated. This is a special type of fat, literally stuffed with mitochondria. Its task is to burn calories not for movement, but for heat. Analysis shows regular exposure to cold increases mitochondrial density in tissues by 50% in 3 months. You become a furnace that generates energy at a furious speed. The second strategy is mitochondrial biogenesis. This is the process of growing new, powerful power plants to replace the recycled ones. And here, a special type of movement plays a key role. In the first chapter, we said that inactivity kills, but Logos 7 makes an important clarification. Not all sports are equally useful for energy. Many people trying to lose weight or cheer up start exhausting themselves with intense workouts in the gym, CrossFit, or fast running. They work at a high heart rate, gasp for air, sweat. This trains the heart, yes. But for mitochondria, this is often stress leading to oxidation. The algorithm identified the gold zone of loads, known as Zone 2. This is monotonous cardio of low intensity, jogging, brisk walking, cycling, at a pace where you can calmly maintain a conversation without gasping for air. In this mode, the body learns to burn specifically fats, not glucose. Burning fat requires more oxygen and a more developed mitochondrial network. When you train in Zone 2, you send a signal to the cell. We need a constant, long supply of energy. The cell responds by activating the PGC1A protein. This protein is the chief architect of biogenesis. It issues an order to the DNA to begin building new mitochondria. Logos 7 simulated an experiment. A group of people exercising in Zone 2 for 40 minutes 3 times a week showed a 300% increase in the energy potential of cells after 2 months. They didn't become Olympic champions, but they stopped getting tired by lunchtime. Their baseline endurance grew. Their battery became 3 times larger. The third component of the protocol is intermittent fasting. We will touch on nutrition in detail in the next chapter, but here it is important to mention the mechanism of autophagy. When you do not eat for 16 or 18 hours, insulin levels drop, and the general cleaning mode turns on in the cells. The organism, deprived of an external influx of nutrients, begins to digest itself, but not healthy tissues, specifically intracellular debris, including broken proteins and dead mitochondria. This is a process of self-renewal. Regular periods of hunger are a reset button for your cellular fleet. And finally, the fourth factor is the light regime. Mitochondria are sensitive to light, in particular, to the infrared spectrum. At dawn and dusk, sunlight contains the maximum amount of red and infrared radiation. This light is capable of penetrating through the skin and acting on the enzyme cytochrome C oxidase inside the mitochondria. This literally spurs the production of ATP and reduces inflammation. Modern man, sitting under cold office lamps, is deprived of this spectrum. We live in conditions of light starvation. Logos 7 recommends at least 10 minutes of direct sunlight or near-infrared light from special lamps on the skin daily. This is not esotericism about sun energy. This is the biophysics of photobiomodulation. You charge your cells with photons like a solar battery. Let's summarize the interim results of the second chapter. Your energy is the quantity and quality of your mitochondria. To restore vitality, you need to become the engineer of your internal power plant. The protocol of actions generated by the system looks like this. First, remove comfort. Introduce thermal stress into your life. A contrast shower in the morning is not just hygiene, it is reactor startup. Second, move slowly, but for a long time. Find time for low-intensity cardio. Walk. This builds new power units. Third, give the digestive system a rest. Periods without food trigger cleaning from cellular debris. Fourth, seek the red spectrum of light. But even the most perfect power plant will not work if you throw damp wood or plastic into the furnace. We repaired the engine, but now we need to deal with the fuel. Most people fuel their Formula One car with cheap diluted gasoline and are surprised why the engine sputters. In the next chapter, we will analyze the fuel algorithm. The Logos 7 system analyzed the composition of modern food and revealed shocking facts about how sugar hacks your brain and cuts off access to your own fat reserves. We will talk about insulin resistance, ketones, and why oatmeal for breakfast might be the worst start to the day for your productivity. Your cells are ready to work. Now you need to give them the right resource. Stay with us. The loading of the third chapter has already begun. We fixed the engine. In the last chapter, we broke down how to restart mitochondria and prepare cellular infrastructure for energy generation. But even the most perfect reactor, even the most tuned internal combustion engine, will turn into a pile of useless scrap metal if you pour water into it instead of gasoline. Or even worse, gasoline diluted with sugar. Welcome to the third chapter. Here we will talk about food. But I warn you right away, if you are expecting recipes for delicious smoothies or tips on counting calories for weight loss, you have come to the wrong door. The Logos 7 system does not view food as pleasure, tradition, or social ritual. For the algorithm, your food is purely a chemical substrate, an incoming data stream that reprograms your biochemistry. Food is code. And judging by the statistics of metabolic diseases, most people write this code with fatal errors that crash the entire system. We uploaded data on the diet of modern man over the last 50 years into Logos 7 and overlaid them on graphs of the growth of chronic fatigue, type 2 diabetes, and cognitive disorders. The result of the correlation analysis looks like a straight line pointing upwards at a 45-degree angle. We are facing a paradox. We eat more than any of our ancestors, yet our cells are starving. We are literally drowning in calories but suffocating from a lack of energy. Why? The answer lies in a hormone that controls all energy traffic in your body. Its name is insulin. Imagine that your cell is a house, and glucose is firewood that needs to be brought inside to light the fireplace. Insulin is a courier who has the key to the door. In a normal situation, you eat an apple, blood sugar levels rise slightly, the pancreas sends insulin, it opens the cell doors, glucose enters, mitochondria burn it, and you are full of energy. But what happens in reality? The modern diet, based on recommendations introduced in the 1980s, relies on carbohydrates. Cereal for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, pasta for dinner, cookies with tea during breaks. We bombard the body with glucose every 2 to 3 hours. The courier rings the cell doorbell constantly, day and night. Logos 7 simulated the reaction of cellular receptors to such an attack. The cell, overflowing with glucose that it doesn't have time to burn due to inactivity, begins to defend itself. It changes the locks. It stops responding to the knocking. This state is called insulin resistance. What happens next? It is a disaster scenario. You eat a plate of pasta or sweet oatmeal. Glucose enters the blood. There's a lot of it. But the cells are locked. They scream to the brain, "We are hungry. There's no energy." The brain panics and orders the pancreas to produce even more insulin. The hormone level jumps to the skies. Under this wild pressure, the cells open the doors slightly, but only to send the excess glucose not to the mitochondria, but straight to the fat depot. The result? An insulin storm rages in the blood. Your fat reserves grow, and you have no energy because access to it is blocked by high insulin. And 2 hours later, the inevitable happens. Sugar levels drop sharply. This is the insulin pit. Your brain registers the drop in sugar as a threat to life. You feel sudden weakness, trembling in your hands, irritability, and an uncontrollable desire to eat something sweet. This is not your character. This is not a lack of willpower. This is a biochemical prison. Logos 7 classifies this state as metabolic addiction. You are tethered to a source of fast carbohydrates like a junkie to a dose. You live from spike to spike. Your energy is unstable, like the cardiogram of a heart attack. But there is another problem revealed by the system. Glucose is dirty fuel. Burning it produces significantly more free radicals than burning fats. Remember the exhaust gases from the previous chapter? So, Running on sugar is like running a coal boiler room. Lots of soot, lots of smoke, rapid equipment wear. Is there an alternative? Yes. Evolution gave us a hybrid engine. We can run not only on glucose but also on fats. And the fuel obtained from fats is called ketones. We conducted a simulation of the brain working on ketones. The results are impressive. Ketones are aviation kerosene or, if you like, nuclear fuel compared to the coal of glucose. They burn cleanly, producing minimal oxidative stress. They give 30% more energy per unit of oxygen consumed. A brain running on ketones shifts into super clarity mode. Brain fog disappears. Concentration improves. But most importantly, energy levels become stable. Even the thinnest person has enough body fat for weeks of autonomous operation. You no longer need to throw wood into the furnace every 2 hours. You have access to a huge internal reservoir. Why don't we use this super resource? Because high insulin blocks the process of lipolysis, fat breakdown. As long as you eat carbohydrates, the fat depot is locked with a padlock. You carry hundreds of thousands of kilocalories of energy on you in the form of subcutaneous fat, but die of hunger if you don't eat a bun. It is absurd from an engineering point of view. How to flip the switch? How to activate the fuel algorithm? Logos 7 developed a strategy of metabolic flexibility. Our goal is to teach the body to switch efficiently between fuel sources, but with priority on fats. Step 1. Elimination of white noise. Sugar, white flour, processed grains are toxins. The system sees no nutritional value in them, only empty calories and inflammation provokers. Remove them, harshly and uncompromisingly. Sugar causes vascular inflammation, glycation of proteins, you literally caramelize from the inside, your tissues become brittle, and kills intestinal microflora. Step 2. Inversion of the pyramid. We need to replace carbohydrates with fats, but not trans fats from margarine and fast food, which Logos 7 marks as biological weapons. We need constructive lipids, avocados, olive oil, fatty fish, nuts, eggs, high-fat butter. Fat is not the enemy. Fat is the building material for the sheaths of your neurons and the basis for the synthesis of sex hormones. Without cholesterol, there is no testosterone. And without testosterone, there is no drive. A low-fat diet is a direct path to depression and hormonal collapse. Step 3. The time window. Here we return to intermittent fasting, but view it as a tool for insulin management. Remember, every meal is an insulin spike. If you eat from 8 in the morning until 11 at night, your insulin never drops to baseline. You never switch to fat-burning mode. The algorithm suggests the 16-8 scheme. You eat all your fuel within 8 hours, for example from 12 noon to 8 in the evening, and for 16 hours you drink only water. What happens during these 16 hours? First, glycogen in the liver burns out. Then, when insulin drops to a minimum, the body is forced to unseal fat reserves. Ketone production begins. In the first days of transition, you will feel resistance. This is called keto flu. Your brain, used to easy sugar, will demand a dose. You will feel weakness. But Logos 7 warns, this is not a breakdown. This is the recalibration of enzyme systems. Your body needs time, usually from 3 days to 2 weeks, to relearn how to produce enzymes for breaking down fats, which atrophied over years of carbohydrate life. As soon as adaptation is complete, you will feel what we call energy autonomy. You will be able to wake up, skip breakfast, work for 5 hours in a state of deep concentration, work out, and only then eat. And all this without trembling hands or thoughts of food. You will become independent of external reinforcements. Separately, it is worth mentioning hidden saboteurs. The system analyzed the composition of so-called healthy products. Yogurts with additives, muesli, protein bars, packaged juices. In 90% of cases, they contain hidden sugar, or corn syrup. The glycemic index of instant oatmeal for breakfast is comparable to a chocolate bar. You think you are fueling up with healthy energy, but in reality, you are launching the same insulin roller coaster. Read labels. If the ingredients list sugar, fructose, maltodextrin, it is junk code. Do not upload it to your system. Another important aspect identified by Logo 7 is individual reaction. What gives energy to one person may put another to sleep. There is a concept of food intolerance. Gluten, lectins, casein. These proteins can cause hidden inflammation in the gut. And the gut is the second brain. 90% of serotonin is produced there. If your gut is inflamed due to the wrong fuel, your brain will be in a fog. The algorithm recommends conducting an elimination test. Remove gluten and dairy products for a month, then reintroduce them and track the reaction. The results may shock you. For many people, chronic fatigue goes away 3 days after giving up bread. Let's summarize the third chapter. Your nutrition is an engineering task to ensure stable, clean combustion. The formula of the fuel algorithm looks like this. First, stabilize insulin. Remove frequent snacking. Second, switch to clean fuel. Minimize carbohydrates, increase quality fats, and protein. Third, observe the eating window. Give the body time for maintenance and burning its own reserves. Fourth, exclude food allergens. Remember, every time you put something in your mouth, you make a choice between energy and lethargy, between health and inflammation. Food is a tool. Use it to build a body capable of performing your tasks, not a body that needs to be constantly serviced and treated. Now that we have established energy production, mitochondria, and ensured the supply of quality fuel, nutrition, we need to talk about the most important process of maintenance and data preservation. About a process that takes up 1/3 of our lives, but which we treat with criminal negligence. In the next chapter, we will analyze the reboot cycle. Sleep. Why can 8 hours in bed be absolutely useless? How does bedroom temperature affect brain regeneration? And why can one glance at a smartphone screen at night cancel out all your recovery efforts? Logo 7 has already prepared an analysis of sleep phases and is ready to destroy your illusions about how you should sleep. Don't switch off. We are just starting to accelerate. In previous chapters, we set up energy production at the cellular level and provided the body with quality fuel. But imagine a factory that runs in 3 shifts, non-stop, without breaks for maintenance and cleaning. The machines overheat, mountains of waste accumulate in the workshops, wiring sparks. Sooner or later, such a factory will blow up. Your organism is exactly that kind of factory. And the only time when equipment repair and garbage removal happen is sleep. Welcome to the 4th chapter. We will talk about why 1/3 of your life spent in an unconscious state is not a waste of time, but the foundation of your productivity. And why what you call sleep, from the Logo 7 system's point of view, is not sleep at all. We uploaded data from sleep trackers, smart rings, and medical electroencephalograms of 10 million users for the year 2023 into the analytical core of Logo 7. The analysis result is shocking. 95% of people sleep in junk sleep mode. Yes, you may spend 8 hours in bed. You may not even wake up during the night. But your biometric data shows that recovery is not happening. You are simply lying in the dark while your brain continues to run in emergency mode, and the body slowly degrades. Let's destroy the main myth. Sleep is not a passive process. It is not turning off the computer. It is launching a highly complex operating system update and hard drive defragmentation program. If you interrupt this process in the middle, or if it proceeds with errors, in the morning, you will get a frozen system. Logo 7 identifies 2 critically important phases without which energy is impossible: deep sleep and REM sleep. Deep sleep is an anabolic calm. In this phase, your breathing slows down, body temperature drops to a minimum, and the brain disconnects sensory systems. This is where physical recovery happens. The pituitary gland releases a powerful dose of somatotropin, growth hormone, into the blood. This hormone heals microtraumas in muscles, restores immune cells, and, most importantly, renews the mitochondrial pool we talked about in the second chapter. If you have a deep sleep deficit, you physically age with acceleration. Your tissues don't repair. You wake up shattered with joint pain and muscle heaviness. REM sleep, or the rapid eye movement phase, is a mental workshop. In this phase, the brain is almost as active as when awake. It processes information received during the day. It transfers data from short-term memory to long-term memory. It erases the emotional coloring from traumatic events. This is where creativity and the ability to solve complex problems are formed. A deficit of REM sleep leads to emotional instability, anxiety, memory impairment, and that very brain fog. But the most important discovery of neurophysiology in the last decade, which Logos 7 considers a key factor in energy management, is the glymphatic system. Imagine a night metropolis. During the day, streets are packed with traffic. At night, when cars disappear, cleaning equipment comes out onto the roads. The same thing happens in your brain. During the day, while neurons are actively working, they produce metabolic waste, beta amyloids, tau proteins. This is cellular garbage. If it is not removed, it accumulates and literally chokes neurons, leading in the long term to Alzheimer's disease. The glymphatic system is the brain's sewage system. During deep sleep, glial cells surrounding neurons shrink in volume by 60%. Wide channels open between cells, through which cerebrospinal fluid washes brain tissues under pressure, flushing out all toxins. This is a physical brainwashing, and it works only, I emphasize, only in the deep sleep phase. If you sleep superficially, the cleaning equipment does not come out. You wake up with a brain full of toxic waste, hence the headache, sluggishness, and inability to focus. Why don't we sleep well? Logos 7 identified the main enemy, light pollution. Evolutionarily, our circadian rhythms, internal clocks, are tied to the sun. In the morning, there's a lot of blue spectrum light, a signal to wake up, predators are hunting. In the evening, the sun sets, the spectrum becomes red and orange, a signal to calm down, prepare for sleep. Today we have hacked this mechanism, but against ourselves. LED lamps and gadget screens emit a powerful peak in the blue spectrum. When you look at a smartphone at 11 p.m., special photoreceptors in your eyes send a signal to the brain's suprachiasmatic nucleus. It is noon. The sun is at its zenith. The brain cancels melatonin production in panic. Melatonin is not just a sleep hormone. It is the conductor of all recovery processes. It is a powerful antioxidant that fights cancer and aging. Logos 7 shows just 5 minutes of viewing a social network feed before bed reduce melatonin levels by 50% and shift its production by 3 hours. You fall asleep from fatigue, but your brain does not receive the chemical signal to launch deep sleep phases. You sleep idly. The second sabotage factor is temperature. To plunge into deep sleep, your body temperature must drop by about 1 degree. Evolutionarily, night has always been colder than day. We wrap ourselves in warm blankets, turn on the heating, and close the windows. Heat is the enemy of deep sleep. The system records a direct correlation. In rooms with temperatures above 21 degrees, the duration of deep sleep is reduced by 30%. The third factor is time. There's a concept of the melatonin window. It opens approximately from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. At this time, the hormonal background is ideal for physical recovery. Logos 7 claims an hour of sleep before midnight is equal in recovery value to 2 hours of sleep after. If you go to bed at 2 a.m., you miss the main peak of growth hormone secretion. You can sleep until 12 noon, but you won't recover what was lost. The fourth factor is adenosine and caffeine. Adenosine is a fatigue molecule. It accumulates in the brain throughout the day, creating sleep pressure. Caffeine works as a plug. It blocks adenosine receptors. You don't feel tired, but adenosine doesn't go anywhere. It continues to accumulate. The problem is that the half-life of caffeine is from 6 to 8 hours. A cup of coffee drunk at 4 p.m. is still circulating in your blood at midnight, preventing the brain from diving into deep sleep. You lose about 20% of sleep quality due to daytime coffee. So we diagnosed the problem. Modern man sleeps in a bright, hot room with a phone in hand and caffeine in blood. This is not sleep. It is a biological crime against oneself. Logos 7 developed the architecture of the ideal night. This is a protocol that will allow you to squeeze maximum recovery in minimum time. Point 1. Digital hygiene. This is the law. 2 hours before sleep, no screens. If you critically need to work, use glasses that block 100% of the blue spectrum. These are ugly orange glasses, but they will save your melatonin. Switch all gadgets to night mode, remove cold overhead light, leave only dim, warm sources at floor level. Create a simulation of sunset in the apartment. Point 2. Total darkness. Your skin also senses light. Even a diode on the TV or light from a street lamp through the window can disturb sleep. Use blackout curtains that block 100% of light. If impossible, a high-quality sleep mask. The bedroom should be dark as a cave. Literally, you shouldn't see your hand in front of your face. Point 3. Cold. The optimal temperature for sleep, calculated by the system, is 18 or 19 degrees Celsius. Ventilate the room before bed. Sleep under a warm, heavy blanket. Weight, by the way, calms the nervous system, but in cool air. The head should be in the cold. Point 4. The 10, 3, 2, 1 rule. 10 hours before sleep, no caffeine. 3 hours before, no food. Digestion raises body temperature and heart rate, blocking deep sleep. 2 hours before, no work. 1 hour before, no screens. Point 5. Breathing mode. Many people snore or breathe through their mouths during sleep. This leads to hypoxia, oxygen starvation of the brain, and frequent micro-awakenings. Biohackers use a simple but effective method, taping the mouth at night with special porous tape. This forces you to breathe through your nose. Nasal breathing humidifies the air, increases oxygen absorption by 20%, and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting relaxation. Point 6. Waking up. How you wake up determines your day. The sound of an alarm clock is stress. Use light alarm clocks mimicking dawn. But most importantly, in the first minutes after waking up, you need bright light, preferably sunlight. This sets the melatonin timer for the next evening. Go out on the balcony, look at the sky. This calibrates your circadian rhythms. Logos 7 predicts implementing this protocol will increase your cognitive performance by 40% within a week. You will stop needing stimulants to pry your eyes open. Your body will remember what it's like to wake up charged. Sleep is the base. If you don't sleep, no diets, workouts, or nootropics will help you. You are building a skyscraper on a swamp. Strengthen the foundation. Make sleep your #1 priority. It is the most productive thing you can do for your future. But what if you went to bed on time, in the dark and cold, but sleep doesn't come? If thoughts spin in your head like a broken record? If anxiety squeezes your chest and you stare at the ceiling afraid of tomorrow? Here we encounter an enemy operating from within. Hormonal sabotage, cortisol, adrenaline, chronic stress holding us in a vice grip. In the next, 5th chapter, we will crack the mechanisms of stress. Logos 7 will explain why your nervous system is stuck in the on position and more importantly, show where the off button is. We will learn to hack the vagus nerve and instantly extinguish panic with biochemical methods. Turn off the lights, tune in for recovery, and see you in the 5th chapter. You are sitting in a comfortable chair. The room is warm, safe, and no one is attacking you. But a storm is raging inside you. Your heart beats slightly faster than normal, palms are damp, jaws clenched, and a cold knot of anxiety twists in your stomach. You try to relax but can't. You try to fall asleep, but thoughts dart around like frightened birds. You feel as if a tiger is waiting for you around the corner, ready to pounce. But there is no tiger. There is only a notification in your work email, an unpaid bill, or an unpleasant conversation that took place 3 days ago. Welcome to the 5th chapter. Today we will expose the mechanism that steals your energy in the most cynical way. We will talk about hormonal sabotage, about why your body is stuck in war mode when there is peace around, and how this mode burns your resources faster than any physical labor. The Logos 7 system conducted a comprehensive analysis of the neuroendocrine profile of the modern urban dweller. The data shows that 70% of the population lives in a state of chronic sympathetic activation. In simple terms, your gas pedal is floored even when the car is in the garage. You are revving in neutral. The engine roars, gas flies out the pipe, parts wear out, and you go nowhere. This is the formula for chronic fatigue. To understand how to fix this, you need to understand the mechanics of the process. Our nervous system has 2 main modes. The first is parasympathetic. This is the rest and digest mode. In this state, we recover, immunity kills viruses, tissues regenerate, the brain learns. This is the energy accumulation mode. The second mode is sympathetic. This is the fight or flight mode. It was designed by evolution for one purpose: short-term survival during a physical threat. Imagine our ancestor in the savannah. He sees a predator. The brain instantly sends a signal to the adrenal glands. A cocktail of adrenaline and cortisol is released into the blood. What happens next? It is a masterpiece of biological engineering. Adrenaline speeds up the heart to pump blood faster to the muscles. Pupils dilate to see the threat. Digestion, immunity, the reproductive system, all this shuts down instantly. Why digest lunch or fight bacteria if in 5 minutes you might become someone's lunch? All energy, absolutely all of it, is mobilized for a spurt. Cortisol does one more important thing. It sharply raises blood glucose levels to feed the brain and muscles. Where does it get this glucose? If you haven't eaten, cortisol begins to break down your own muscles, turning protein into sugar. In a moment of danger, this is justified. But here is the problem revealed by Logos 7. For your ancient brain, there's no difference between a saber-toothed tiger and an angry boss. No difference between a real threat to life and a mortgage payment. The reaction is exactly the same. Only the tiger would leave, or the ancestor would run away, and the stress would end. Adrenaline burned out in movement, and relaxation ensued. The modern tiger doesn't leave. It lives in your phone. It lives in your thoughts. You experience micro stresses hundreds of times a day. Traffic jam, news about a crisis, call from the bank. Every time, the adrenal glands go psh, releasing a dose of cortisol. You don't run, you sit in an office chair. Adrenaline doesn't burn off. Glucose released into the blood is not used by muscles and settles on the waist as visceral fat. Logos 7 calls this condition the metabolic loop of stress. Your body is constantly in emergency power-saving mode. It shuts down unnecessary functions. Do you get sick often? That's cortisol suppressing immunity, digestion problems. That's the sympathetic system stopping peristalsis. No libido. The body thinks now is not the time to reproduce. Now is war. But the scariest impact of cortisol is on the brain. The system conducted an MRI analysis of the brains of people with chronic stress. The results are frightening. High cortisol literally kills neurons in the hippocampus, the zone responsible for memory and learning. Simultaneously, it increases the size of the amygdala, the fear center. Your brain physically restructures. You become dumber and more anxious. You start seeing threats where there are none. This is a vicious circle. You are tired because your body spends all energy on maintaining combat readiness against phantom enemies. You cannot relax because your brake is broken. But the good news is that the brake can be fixed. We have a built-in mechanism for instant calming, a biological switch that toggles us from fight or flight mode to rest and recover mode. Its name is the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest highway of your nervous system. It runs from the brainstem through the neck to all vital organs: heart, lungs, stomach, intestines. It is the main control cable of the parasympathetic system. 80% of vagus fibers are sensory. They transmit information from the body to the brain. And exactly here lies the secret of biohacking stress. Logos 7 confirms, you cannot order your brain to relax by force of thought. Try telling a person in panic to just calm down. It never works. Thoughts generate anxiety, and anxiety generates thoughts. But you can hack the system through the body. You can send the brain a physical signal of safety via the vagus nerve. We uploaded data on physiological practices of special forces, freedivers, and yogis into the system. The algorithm identified the most effective vagus activation protocols that work flawlessly, like a reset button on a computer. The first and most powerful tool is breathing. But not just deep breathing. Most people under stress breathe incorrectly, superficially with the chest, and frequently. This is a signal to the brain. We are running. Threat. To activate the vagus, mechanics need to be changed. Logos 7 recommends the physiological sigh technique. This breathing pattern was discovered by scientists in the deep sleep phase and during crying, sobbing. It consists of a double inhale and a long exhale. You take a deep breath through the nose, then, without exhaling, take another short inhale to maximally open the alveoli in the lungs, and then slowly exhale through the mouth, as if through a thin straw. Why does this work? It is pure mechanics. Upon inhaling, the diaphragm goes down. The volume of the chest increases. The heart also increases slightly in volume, and blood flow in it slows down. The brain receives a signal to speed up the heartbeat. Upon exhaling, everything is reversed. The diaphragm rises, the heart compresses, blood flows faster, and the brain sends a signal to slow down the pulse. A long exhale is directly pressing the heart brake pedal via the vagus nerve. The algorithm shows just a minute and a half of performing the physiological sigh, about 10 cycles, reduces cortisol levels in saliva by 25% and shifts the brain into a state of calm concentration. This is the fastest pill for stress that is always with you. The second hacking method is the mammalian dive reflex. Our body remembers its aquatic past. When receptors on the face feel cold water, the organism instantly slows the heartbeat and redistributes blood flow to the brain and heart to economically use oxygen underwater. This is the most powerful parasympathetic activation. If you feel panic or rage washing over you, if you cannot gather your thoughts, go to the bathroom, scoop ice-cold water into your palms and splash it on your face, or apply something cold to your neck where the vagus nerve passes. Logos 7 records an instant drop in heart rate by 10 to 15 beats per minute. This is an emergency tension release. The third method is visual focus control. In a state of stress, our vision becomes tunnel-like. We focus on the threat or on the monitor screen. This type of vision, focal, is linked to the sympathetic nervous system. To turn on relaxation, you need to switch to panoramic vision. Try it right now. Without turning your head or moving your eyes, try to see what is on the edges of your field of vision. See the ceiling and floor, walls to the left and right simultaneously. Defocus your gaze. This simple trick tricks ancient brain mechanisms. Panoramic vision evolutionarily means, I am scanning the horizon. There are no predators. Everything is calm. After 30 seconds of such viewing, neck muscles will begin to relax by themselves. The fourth vector of impact is body position. Body language works both ways. Not only does the brain control posture, but posture controls the brain. The shrimp pose in which modern man spends the day, hunched shoulders, lowered head, compressed chest, is a pose of submission and fear. In this position, the diaphragm is clamped. The vagus nerve does not work fully. Logos 7 suggests the expansion protocol. Straighten up, open your chest, lift your chin, take up as much space as possible. This increases testosterone levels and lowers cortisol. The brain reads the signal from proprioceptors. We are big, we are strong, we have nothing to fear. The fifth, unobvious method is vocalization. The vagus nerve passes through the vocal cords. Vibration in the throat stimulates it. That is why singing, humming, or chanting mantras like Om is so soothing. This is not mysticism. This is physiotherapy of the vagus. If you are alone, try humming in a low voice on the exhale. Create vibration in the chest. This is an internal massage of the nervous system. Let's summarize the fifth chapter. Stress is the main devourer of your energy. It steals resources from your immunity, digestion, and brain to prepare you for a battle that won't happen. Living in chronic stress is like driving in first gear on the Autobahn. Lots of noise, overheated engine, and no speed. To stop draining energy, you must learn to use the brake. Your anti-crisis protocol. First, monitor your state. As soon as you feel tightness inside, you are in fight or flight mode. Second, use breathing. Double inhale, long exhale. Breathe with the diaphragm, not the chest. Third, apply cold. Ice water on the face to reset panic. Fourth, expand vision. Panoramic gaze turns off the tunnel of anxiety. Fifth, watch your posture. An open chest is the guarantee of confidence and a free vagus. By implementing these simple mechanics, you will close the biggest hole in your energy budget. You will stop wasting strength fighting phantoms. You will learn to be relaxed but ready for action. This state is called calm strength. But stress is not the only neurochemical problem. There is another hormone that controls our life. A hormone that makes us want. A hormone that promises happiness, but often leads to emptiness. Why is it so hard for us to undertake difficult work, but so easy to sit on the phone for hours? Why does modern entertainment make us weak and weak-willed? In the next 6th chapter, we will analyze the neurochemistry of motivation. We will talk about dopamine. Logos 7 will show how cheap dopamine burns out your receptors, turning you into a vegetable, and how to conduct a harsh dopamine detox to return your taste for life and wild drive to achieve goals. Get ready. It will hurt, but it is necessary. Moving to chapter 6. You open your eyes in the morning, full of determination to change your life. You plan to write a book, learn a language, create a business. But then your hand reaches for the phone for a second, just to check email, just to glance at the news. Half an hour later, you find yourself mindlessly scrolling through a feed of short videos. An hour later, you feel a strange emptiness. Great plans seem distant and impossible, and the brain demands only one thing: more content, more food, something simpler and pleasant. By evening, you hate yourself for lack of will, promise to start tomorrow, and the cycle repeats. Welcome to the 6th chapter. Here we will talk about why you want what you don't actually want, why complex, important goals cause resistance, while meaningless entertainment sucks you in like a quagmire. We will crack the neurochemical mechanism of your will and show how the modern world has hacked it. We will talk about dopamine. Logos 7 identified this neurotransmitter as a key element in controlling human behavior. But let's immediately destroy a popular myth. Dopamine is not the hormone of pleasure. This is a mistake. Pleasure is endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin. Dopamine is the hormone of anticipation, the hormone of desire, the hormone of motivation. The evolutionary task of dopamine is to force you to get up from a rock and go find food, water, or a partner. It is fuel for action. The brain releases dopamine when it sees an opportunity to get a reward. Over there, behind the hill, there might be an antelope. Dopamine whispers, and you feel a surge of strength to run behind the hill. In nature, rewards were rare and hard to reach. To get sweet fruit, you had to climb a tree. To get meat, you had to hunt. The dopamine system worked perfectly. Effort, result, reward. But today, we live in a world that the Logos 7 system classifies as an environment of dopamine abundance. We are surrounded by super stimuli that never existed in nature. Sweet and fatty food, pornography, video games, social networks, one-click shopping. All this is available instantly, without effort. We uploaded social media algorithms into the system and compared them with the operating principles of slot machines and casinos. The match is 100%. This is called variable reinforcement. You pull the lever, swipe the feed, not knowing what will drop. A boring post or a funny video, a like from a girl or nothing. This unpredictability causes the most powerful bursts of dopamine. Your brain gets hooked on the expectation of a reward. What happens when you constantly bombard your brain with these easy dopamine peaks? The same thing that happens with insulin. Resistance. Imagine that dopamine is loud music, and the receptors in your brain are ears. If you constantly listen to music at full volume, your ears go deaf. To protect itself from overstimulation, the brain reduces the number of dopamine receptors. This is called downregulation. The result? You need more and more stimulation just to feel normal. Ordinary life, a walk in the park, reading a book, talking to a friend, work, stops arousing any interest. It seems gray, boring, and bland. You have no drive. You have no motivation to do something difficult because the reward for it won't be soon. But the phone with bright pictures is right here in your hand. Logos 7 calls this state dopamine burnout. Symptoms: apathy, procrastination, inability to concentrate, constant boredom, anxiety. You become a consumer, not a creator. You are a biological puppet jerked by the strings of corporate algorithms that monetize your attention. But there is a way to return control, a tough but effective way. It is called dopamine detox, or scientifically speaking, receptor resensitization. We need to restore the sensitivity of your ears so they can hear the quiet music of reality again. The Logos 7 system developed a neurochemistry recovery protocol. It is not about going to a monastery forever and giving up technology. It is about taking back control. Step 1. Trigger awareness. Analyze your day. Where does your attention leak? What do you snap to when you're bored or anxious? Social networks, video games, series, sweets, alcohol. Write down your main sources of cheap dopamine. Step 2. Radical abstinence. Choose one day, preferably a weekend, and perform a complete reboot. The rules are strict. No phone, computer, internet, no music or podcasts, no books or magazines. Yes, even useful ones. No tasty food, only simple, bland food to satisfy hunger. No sex or masturbation. No socializing, if possible. What can you do? Walk, sit and stare at the wall, think, write with a pen and a notebook, stretch, clean, meditate. Why is this needed? Boredom. Boredom is your best friend. Boredom is the brain's signal that the current level of stimulation is lower than usual. When you deprive the brain of superstimuli, it starts to panic. You will feel withdrawal, you will want to grab the phone, but if you endure this peak, magic will happen. The brain, starved for dopamine, we'll begin to look for it in simple things. Suddenly it turns out that a walk in the park is incredibly interesting, that the taste of simple buckwheat is rich, that ideas are born in your head that you have been looking for a long time. Receptors will begin to recover. Sensitivity will return. Step 3. Introducing dopamine fasting into routine. After a day of complete reboot, introduce restrictions into ordinary life. The first hour rule. Do not pick up the phone for the first hour after waking up. Let your brain wake up and produce its own dopamine for the day's tasks, not drain it into the newsfeed. The digital sunset rule. Turn off gadgets 2 hours before sleep. We talked about this in the chapter on sleep, but here it is important for the psyche too. The one screen rule. If you watch a movie, don't mess around on your phone. If you eat, don't watch YouTube. Return the brain's ability to get pleasure from a single process. Step 4. The effort-reward link. This is the most important point for long-term motivation. Logo 7 insists, you must reprogram your reward system. Never give yourself cheap dopamine before difficult work. Want to scroll the feed? First, do the report. Want to eat something tasty? First, a workout. Want to play? First, cleaning. Force your brain to understand. Dopamine must be earned. Moreover, learn to get dopamine from the process of effort itself. This is the highest aerobatics of biohacking. When it's hard at a workout, when you are solving a difficult task at work, tell yourself, yes, this is hard, but right now, I am becoming better. Consciously mark effort as something pleasant. Experiments show that if you focus only on the result, getting a medal, earning $1 million, the path to it will be torturous and you might burn out. If you learn to get high from friction, from overcoming, you will become invulnerable. Your source of dopamine will be inside you, in the action itself. The Logo 7 system also draws attention to physical factors affecting baseline dopamine levels. Cold water. Remember the chapter on mitochondria? Immersion in cold water, 14 degrees Celsius, causes a dopamine release of 250%. And unlike cocaine or sugar, this level stays elevated for several hours without causing a sharp crash below the floorboards. This is a healthy, long drive. Sunlight. Light hitting the retina stimulates dopamine production. Tyrosine, the amino acid from which dopamine is built, found in meat, fish, eggs, nuts, provide building material. Let's summarize the 6th chapter. Your motivation is not magic. It is chemistry. If you flood your brain with cheap digital syrup, don't be surprised that you have no appetite for real life. You are an addict sitting on the needle of likes and notifications, but you can get off. Sensitivity recovery protocol. First, admit the addiction. Second, conduct a harsh detox through boredom. Third, remove the phone from mornings and evenings. Fourth, receive dopamine only after completed work. Fifth, fall in love with difficulties. When you clean your receptors, you will discover an amazing thing. Energy for great deeds was always with you. It was just going into the whistle. Now you can direct the steam into the turbine, but returning drive is half the battle. Energy needs to be focused. Imagine a powerful laser. If its beam is scattered, it will barely heat the wall. If focused, it will cut metal. Most people today resemble a light bulb, shining in all directions but with little use. In the next 7th chapter, we will analyze the vector of attention. We will talk about how multitasking destroys your IQ, what the flow state is from the point of view of neurophysiology, and how to enter it with a snap of fingers. Logo 7. Analyze the working methods of genius scientists and programmers to give you an algorithm for deep work. Your brain is ready for focusing. Stay with us. Chapter 7 is loading. In previous chapters, we turned your body into a thermonuclear reactor. We restored mitochondria, poured quality fuel into the tank, optimized sleep, and repaired the hormonal system, You have energy, but energy without a vector is just an explosion. It is chaos. Imagine you have a powerful laser capable of cutting through steel, but instead of focusing the beam into one point, you scatter it through cloudy glass. The result? You barely heat the air. Welcome to the 7th chapter. Today we will talk about focus, about attention, about that very cloudy glass that turns your potential into nothing. The Logos 7 system analyzed the cognitive effectiveness of modern man, and the data is disappointing. We live in an era of defocus. We call it multitasking and are proud of it, writing it in resumes. But the algorithm marks multitasking as cognitive suicide. Let's immediately identify a brutal fact confirmed by neurophysiology. The human brain is incapable of multitasking. It is a biological impossibility. You have a single core processor of conscious attention. What you call multitasking is rapid switching between tasks. Swipe feed, reply in Messenger, line in report, sip of coffee, Messenger again. Logos 7 simulated the energy costs of such a mode. Each context switch is a metabolic operation. The brain needs to unload data of one task from working memory, save them to a temporary buffer, find and load data of another task. This requires glucose and oxygenated blood. When you do this hundreds of times an hour, you burn fuel at a monstrous speed, but your efficiency coefficient tends to 0. Moreover, the system revealed a phenomenon we called attention residue. When you switch from task A to task B, your attention does not transfer completely. Part of your computing resource remains hanging on the previous task. You write an email to a client, but 20% of your brain is still thinking about that funny meme you saw a minute ago. As a result, you work on the letter not with a full brain, but with a fragment of it. Your IQ in multitasking mode drops by 10 to 15 points. According to Logos 7, this is equivalent to the state after a sleepless night or mild alcohol intoxication. You try to build a career and create complex projects while cognitively drunk. Energy is not only physical strength. Energy is the ability to hold focus on one object long enough to change its structure or understand its essence. In the modern economy, attention is the new oil. He who knows how to control his attention becomes a superhuman among scattered zombies. To regain this resource, we need to master a state that science calls flow, and Logos 7 classifies as neural superconductivity mode. What is flow? You have probably experienced it. The moment when you are so immersed in a task that the world around disappears. Time distorts. 5 hours fly by like 5 minutes. You feel no hunger, fatigue, or doubt. Work is done as if by itself, easily and flawlessly. This is not mysticism. It is a specific neurochemical cocktail. We uploaded brain activity data of people in a state of flow. Surgeons, programmers, musicians, extreme athletes. The analysis showed an amazing thing. Usually our brain works in beta rhythm. This is a mode of active wakefulness, often accompanied by internal dialogue and anxiety. In flow, the brain switches to the border between alpha waves, relaxation, and theta waves, deep meditation or sleep, but at the same time retains the highest concentration of gamma waves. In this state, what neurobiologists call transient hypofrontality occurs. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, doubt, and criticism, temporarily shuts down. The inner critic goes silent. The voice that says, "What if it doesn't work out? What will others think?" goes silent. Pure data processing remains. The chemistry of flow is the most powerful narcotic mixture your body can produce. First, norepinephrine focuses attention on the goal. Second, dopamine gives drive and interest, helps recognize patterns. Third, anandamide, the molecule of bliss that promotes lateral thinking, the ability to find non-standard connections. Fourth, endorphins block pain and discomfort. Fifth, serotonin gives a sense of deep satisfaction after completion. All 5 powerful neurotransmitters simultaneously. That is why working in flow does not take away energy, but paradoxically, generates it. People come out of this state tired physically, but inspired mentally. How to enter this mode? Can it be summoned on order, rather than waiting for inspiration? Logos 7 claims, yes, it is an algorithmic task. Flow has triggers. Trigger number 1, deep work and monotasking. You must allocate a block of time, minimum 90 minutes, in which you engage in only one complex task. No phones, no browser tabs, no colleagues. The system calculated. For the brain to accelerate to a state of flow, it requires from 15 to 23 minutes of continuous focus. 23 minutes of pain and boredom before chemistry turns on. If at the 10th minute you got distracted by a notification, you zeroed the timer. You will never enter flow if you are interrupted every 15 minutes. Trigger number 2, clear goal. The brain must know exactly what it is doing right now. Not work on the project, but write the introduction to chapter number 7. Uncertainty kills flow. Trigger number 3, balance of challenge and skill. The task must be difficult, but doable. If the task is too easy, you are bored. Dopamine drops. If too difficult, you are scared. Cortisol rises. Flow is in a narrow corridor between boredom and anxiety, where you work at the limit of your current capabilities. This is the stretch zone. How to organize your life so that energy flows through focus. Logos 7 suggests implementing the time quantization protocol. The human organism lives not only by circadian rhythms, 24 hours, but also by ultradian rhythms. These are cycles of brain activity lasting about 90 minutes. After an hour and a half of intense work, reserves of neurotransmitters and glucose are depleted, and the brain requires a reboot. If you continue to press the gas after 90 minutes, you move into the junk time zone. Efficiency drops, errors increase. The protocol looks like this: 90 minutes of deep work, complete isolation, one task. 20 minutes of complete disconnection. What is complete disconnection? It is not changing the tab to news. It is getting up from the table. It is looking into the distance. It is water. It is movement. You must let the brain clear the cache. Another important aspect of the vector of attention is mental ergonomics. Look at your workplace. What do you see? Stickers, mugs, wires, papers, icons on the computer desktop. Every object in your field of vision is a signal that the brain must process. Logos 7 classifies clutter as visual noise. It eats up to 15% of your cognitive resource in background mode. A clean table is not aesthetics. It is a requirement for your processor's cooling system. Remove everything unrelated to the current task. Your field of vision should be empty, like a Zen garden where there is only you and the object of work. Separately, it is worth mentioning sound accompaniment. In complete silence, the brain may start looking for stimuli and get distracted by the squeak of a chair or ventilation noise. The ideal environment for focus, according to system analysis, is binaural beats, or pink noise. Binaural beats at a frequency of 40 Hz, gamma waves, help synchronize the hemispheres and artificially push the brain toward a state of high concentration. This is legal neurohacking through headphones. But attention is not only what you look at, it is what you don't think about. The Logos 7 system revealed a huge energy leak through open loops. Zeigarnik effect. Any business you started and didn't finish, any promise you made and didn't keep, remains an active process in your subconscious. Buy milk. Call mom. Finish presentation. These background processes eat your RAM. Solution? External brain. You must unload everything from your head onto an external medium. Notes. Task managers. Notebook. As soon as a task is written into a reliable system, the brain receives a signal. Data saved. No need to keep inactive memory. You will feel physical relief and a surge of energy just by writing out all your loose ends on paper. Let's summarize the 7th chapter. The energy we struggled to restore in previous chapters is useless if it splashes onto trifles. Your ability to concentrate is the main multiplier of your success. Your focusing protocol. First, kill multitasking. One task at one moment in time. Second, work in blocks of 90 minutes with mandatory recovery. Third, create a sterile environment. Remove visual noise and turn off notifications. A phone in another room increases IQ. Fourth, use an external brain. Write everything down. Free up RAM. Fifth, strive for flow. Look for tasks at the limit of competence and pass through the barrier of the first 20 minutes of resistance. Now that your mind has become sharp as a razor and focused as a laser, we need to return to the body. Because the brain, however powerful it may be, lives in a biological spacesuit. And this spacesuit is created for movement. Most people perceive sports as a way to burn calories or pump up a bicep. But Logos 7 sees a completely different function in movement. Movement is a pump for energy. Movement is a way to deliver oxygen to the brain and remove toxins from lymph. Why is a sedentary lifestyle slow strangulation of your cells? And how can 5 minutes of correct activity charge you better than an hour of sleep? In the next 8th chapter, we will analyze kinetic charge. We will talk about the lymphatic system, why static kills faster than load, and how to integrate movement into life without living in a gym. Stand up. Stretch. We are moving to the 8th chapter. You are sitting. You have likely been sitting for several hours. Your body is frozen in a static pose resembling the letter L. And while you listen to this text, a process is happening inside you that the Logos 7 system marks as hypodynamic stagnation. We are used to thinking that sports are needed for beauty, abs, or weight loss. This is a marketing lie. Movement is, above all, a hydraulic necessity. Welcome to the 8th chapter. Here we will not talk about marathons or weightlifting. We will talk about how to force your body's fluids to flow, delivering energy to every cell. Your organism is a system of tubes and pumps. The circulatory system has its own powerful pump, the heart. Even if you lie in a coma, the heart will pump blood, delivering oxygen. But there is a second system often forgotten, the lymphatic system. This is your body's sewage system. It removes toxins, dead cells, viruses, and decay products. And it has no heart. Lymph has no pump of its own. The only thing that forces lymph to move is muscle contraction. When you walk, your calf muscles work like a pump, pushing lymph up against gravity. When you sit, the pump is off. Lymph stagnates. Toxins remain in tissues. Logos 7 shows a direct correlation between the number of hours spent sitting and the level of systemic inflammation. You feel lethargy and brain fog not because you are tired from working, but because you are poisoned by your own waste. The second aspect of kinetic charge is oxygenation. The brain weighs 2% of body mass, but consumes 20% of oxygen. Oxygen is an oxidizer necessary for mitochondria to burn fuel. Without oxygen, there is no fire. When you sit hunched over, your lung volume shrinks by 30%. You breathe superficially. The carbon dioxide level in blood rises, oxygen level falls. The brain goes into hypoxia mode, oxygen starvation. It begins to turn off complex functions to save resources. You get dumber before your eyes. What does Logos 7 suggest? We don't need exhausting workouts once a day. We need integrated kinetics. Protocol, micro movements. Every 30 or 45 minutes you must stand up. Not if possible, but mandatory. Do 10 squats. Walk up the stairs. Just wave your arms. Start the muscle pump. The system calculated. 2 minutes of activity every hour increase cognitive productivity by 20% by the end of the working day. The second tool is walking. This is the most natural, evolutionarily justified type of load. During walking, so-called bilateral stimulation of the brain occurs, alternate activation of the left and right hemispheres. That is why the best ideas come during a walk. Logos 7 recommends: conduct all phone conversations standing or walking. Meetings, walk with a colleague, thinking about a complex task. Stand up and walk around the room. The third vector is strength load. Muscles are not just meat for movement. They are an endocrine organ. Working muscles release myokines into the blood, signaling molecules that act as antidepressants, improve memory, and burn visceral fat. You don't need to live in the gym. 2 or 3 short but intense sessions a week are enough to maintain hormonal background. The outcome of the 8th chapter is simple. Static is the death of energy. Your body is created for movement. A sedentary lifestyle is the new smoking. Stand up right now. Take a deep breath. Feel blood rushing to the brain. You just restarted the system. In the next chapter, we will rise to the highest level of control, to where not only ideas are born, but also fatigue. We will talk about your thoughts. We disassembled the body, mitochondria, nutrition, sleep, hormones, movement. Your biological spacesuit is now in perfect condition. But why might you still feel exhausted? Because there is one more energy consumer working 24/7 whose appetite is limitless. This is your internal dialogue. Welcome to the 9th chapter. We will talk about how your thoughts steal your real physical glucose, about what Logos 7 calls a mental virus. The brain sees no difference between reality and imagination. When you lie in bed running a scenario in your head, what if I get fired? What if I get sick? He looked at me somehow wrong. For your neural network, this is happening for real. The visual cortex paints images. The amygdala triggers the fear response. Adrenal glands release cortisol. We uploaded data on thinking patterns of people with chronic fatigue syndrome into the system. 90% of them suffer from rumination, mental chewing gum. This is endless chewing over of negative past events or catastrophizing the future. Logos 7 calculated. 1 hour of intense worry burns as many neurotransmitters and glucose as 6 hours of intense mathematical work. You didn't work. You just sat and feared. But your gas tank is empty. You exhausted yourself with mental idling. Another devourer is open gestalts and grievances. Holding a grudge is an active process. You need to constantly spend energy suppressing anger, replaying revenge dialogues. This is a background program eating RAM and battery. Forgiveness is not a moral act. It is an act of selfish energy-saving hygiene. You forgive not for their sake. You forgive to free up your resource. What to do? How to stop this virus? First, mindfulness or meta position. You must learn to observe your thoughts without getting involved in them. Imagine that thoughts are cars on a highway, and you are standing on the roadside. You see an anxious thought. You don't jump into its cabin. You just note, a thought about fear arrived, and follow it with your gaze. Mindfulness practices, confirmed by Logos 7 data, reduce the activity of the default mode network, the one chewing gum, and save up to 20% of energy per day. Second, technique, unloading. If a thought spins and doesn't leave, write it down. Paper will endure. As soon as you transfer fear from the head to a physical medium, the brain stops spending energy holding it. Third, information diet. Negative news is food for the mental virus. If you start the morning reading about disasters, you infect your brain for the whole day. You tune perception filters to negative. Remove sources of toxic information. Your thoughts are software. If the code is crooked, buggy, and viral, even the most powerful hardware will hang. Rewrite the code. Stop the internal dialogue. Breathe. Be in the moment. Exactly here, in now, there are no energy leaks. We have come a long way. We collected all the puzzle pieces. Now it is time to connect them into a single, working system. In the final chapter, we will synthesize the superhuman. We have come a long way. For 9 chapters straight, we engaged in what is commonly called reverse engineering. We took a human being apart into the smallest details, like a complex biological mechanism placed on an engineer's workbench. We descended into cellular basements to see mitochondria. We traced the path of neurotransmitters and synapses. We hacked the codes of sleep, nutrition, and hormonal regulation. But knowledge of individual details gives no advantage if you don't understand how to reassemble them into a working machine. A pile of spare parts from a Ferrari won't drive on the track, even if every part is perfect. Assembly is needed. Synchronization is needed. A system is needed. Welcome to the finale, to the 10th chapter. Here we will not add new theories. Here we will engage in synthesis. We uploaded all variables, from the glycemic index of products to light wavelength before sleep, into the analytical core of Logos 7. The task set before the algorithm sounded like this: generate the ideal life protocol for a human of the 21st century, ensuring maximum cognitive power and infinite energy level. The system ran millions of simulations. It filtered out everything superfluous, everything trendy but ineffective, and left only a pure, distilled algorithm. What you will hear now is not just a daily schedule. It is an instruction manual for operating your biology. It is the architecture of a superhuman's life. Let's live through these ideal 24 hours. Phase 1. Launch. Morning. 7:00. You wake up, but not from the piercing ring of an alarm clock that dumps cortisol into the blood, mimicking a heart attack. Light wakes you. A light alarm clock or an uncovered window. Light hits the retina even through closed eyelids, sending a signal to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. A new cycle has begun. Your first thought? Usually people reach for the phone. This is a fatal error that Logos 7 marks with a red danger marker. Picking up the phone in the first minutes means giving your dopamine and focus to the algorithms of foreign corporations. You do not touch the phone. You get up. First action: hydration. Overnight, you lost about half a liter of water through breathing and sweat. Your blood is thick, the brain has shrunk. You drink 2 glasses of warm water. Logos 7 recommends adding a pinch of sea salt for electrolytes and a little lemon juice for alkalization. This starts the gastrointestinal tract and restores nerve impulse conductivity. 7:15. Movement and light. You go out to the balcony or into the yard. You need direct sunlight, even if it is cloudy outside. The lux of light outside is hundreds of times greater than in an apartment. This calibrates your circadian rhythms, starting a timer that will go off in 16 hours and want to put you to sleep. Simultaneously, you do light exercises. 5 minutes. Jumping, stretching, squats. The goal is not to pump muscles, but to drive lymph that stagnated overnight. You are a pump. Pump the fluid. 7:30. Cold shock. You go to the shower. Warm water for hygiene and then ice water. Minimum 30 seconds, ideally. 2 minutes. Want to scream? Excellent. That is norepinephrine flooding your brain. Those are your mitochondria waking up in panic and starting to generate heat. A cold shower replaces 3 cups of coffee, but without harm to the heart. You leave the bathroom not a sleepy zombie, but a warrior ready for battle. Phase 2. Deep dive. First half of the day. 8:00. Breakfast time? No. Logos 7 is categorical. Skipping breakfast or postponing it to a later time is a powerful productivity hack. Cortisol levels are naturally high in the morning. Use it for concentration. Ghrelin, hunger hormone levels, will come in waves and go. But your brain, deprived of sugar influx, will switch to ketones. Clarity of thought in this period will be absolute. 8:30, 11:30. Deep work block. This is the time when you create your future. You sit down for the most difficult, most important task of the day. Phone in another room or in airplane mode. No tabs with mail. You and the task. Remember the chapter on flow. The first 20 minutes will be hard. The brain will resist. Endure. At the 21st minute, flow neurochemistry will turn on. In these 3 hours, you will do more than most people do in a week. What do you drink? Tea? Water? Maybe black coffee? But not earlier than 90 minutes after waking up so as not to block adenosine clearance. No sugar, no milk, clean fuel. Phase 3, fuel and reboot, midday, 12:00. First meal. You break the fast. But with what? If you eat pizza or a sandwich, you will die for work. A carbohydrate blow will cause an insulin spike, and then a drop in sugar, that very afternoon coma. Your choice according to the Logos 7 protocol: proteins and fats, scrambled eggs with avocado, fatty fish with vegetables, steak with salad. Fats will give long, even satiety. You will feel fullness, but not heaviness. 13:00. Kinetic recharge. After eating, you cannot sit. Blood glucose level will rise slightly anyway. To send it to muscles, not fat, movement is needed. A brisk walk, 20 minutes. No phone, no podcasts. Just let the brain defocus. Recall the chapter on attention. Panoramic vision calms the amygdala. 14:00. 17:00. Second work block. Here, energy is no longer as sharp as in the morning. This is time for operations. Meetings, calls, mail, routine tasks. Important. Every 45 minutes a timer goes off. You stand up, do 10 squats, shake your hands, drink water. You do not let static kill your metabolism. Phase 4, pressure release, evening, 17:30 or 18:00. Workout. All day you accumulated micro stresses, client call, deadline, traffic jam. Adrenaline floats in the blood. If you go to bed with it, you won't sleep. It must be burned. Strength training or jogging? Logos 7 recommends this exact time for physical activity as body temperature is maximal and injury risk is minimal. Burn out stress. Turn cortisol into muscle joy. 19:00. Dinner. Now, and only now, the algorithm permits carbohydrates. Buckwheat, quinoa, baked potato, wild rice. Why? Carbohydrates promote tryptophan transport to the brain. Tryptophan turns into serotonin, relaxation, and then into melatonin, sleep. A carbohydrate dinner is your natural sleeping pill. But remember, dinner must be 3 hours before sleep. Digestion must end before you get into bed. 20:00. Digital sunset. This is the hardest point for modern man, but the most important. You turn off bright overhead light in the apartment. Leave floor lamps, sconces, candles. Light must be warm, amber, dimmed. You put on glasses blocking blue spectrum. You put away the phone. That's it. Information port closed. No news, no work chats. Your brain must understand the day is over. The hunt is complete. What to do? Talk with family, read paper books, take a bath with magnesium salt. Magnesium penetrates through skin and relaxes muscles. Have sex. Meditate. Do everything that switches the nervous system into parasympathetic mode. Phase 5. Maintenance. Night. 22:00. Preparation for sleep. The bedroom is cold, 18 or 19 degrees, dark as a cave. You tape your mouth. If using this method for nasal breathing, you lie down. Since you followed the entire protocol, you saw the sun in the morning, you are tired physically, you didn't eat at night, you didn't look at a screen. Falling asleep happens instantly. This is not the oblivion you fell into before. This is a controlled dive. While you sleep, the glymphatic system washes neurons. Growth hormone repairs muscles. The brain sorts memories. You don't just sleep, you renew. Conclusion. The price of transformation. You listen to this algorithm. Likely your first reaction is skepticism. This is impossible. I don't have time. It's too complicated. I can't live without series before bed. The Logo 7 system foresaw this reaction. This is the voice of your old neural network. This is the voice of habit. This is the voice of addiction. Your brain is plastic, but neuroplasticity takes time. The algorithm shows the transition period, the valley of pain, lasts from 14 to 21 days. In the first week, it will be hard. You will want sweets. You will want to zone out on your phone. You will feel strange. This is withdrawal. Your organism is rebuilding from cheap, dirty fuel to a nuclear reactor. But if you withstand these 3 weeks, if you simply follow the protocol mechanically, like a robot, ignoring the whining of yourself, a day will come when you wake up and realize that gravity has become weaker, that your head is clear as rock crystal, that you have so much energy you want to run, create, break walls. This state is worth fighting for. Energy is not what you have. Energy is what you do. You are no longer a passenger in your body. You are the pilot. You are the engineer. You are the creator. Forget the word fatigue. It is no longer in your dictionary. Stand up, straighten your back, take a deep breath. Your new life starts not on Monday. It starts right now. End of connection. System Logo 7 terminates simulation.